Welcome to The Power of Rhythm, a podcast with your host, Reinhard Flatischler, founder of Mega Drums, TaKeTiNa Symphonic, and a worldwide network of groundbreaking rhythm training. This podcast will offer you an incredible diversity of voices around the one thing that connects us all: rhythm.
Hi, and welcome to episode 17 of my podcast, a special edition focused on the significance of drumming for community, health, and well-being. My guest today has created a worldwide movement around the one thing, creating unique experiences in drum circles. In 1980, he founded Village Music Circles, instructing over 7,000 students in the University of California, Santa Cruz, while bringing team building and leadership events to organizations internationally. He is known throughout the world as an inspirational presenter, skilled group facilitator, and motivational trainer. He has trained over 10,000 students in 34 countries. Welcome, Athur.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. It's very good to see you, even though the audience can't. It's nice to see your face. It's been quite a few years since we've interacted. Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you of being here, and it's great. We share so many students. They're telling me about the great experience they have in your drum circles, and so TaKeTiNa and your drum circles is kind of related, and you're here now. My first personal question to you is, what was your first experience with a drum?
There was the tail of a shark sticking out the back of the bottom of a Tijuana tack head babaloo, straight-sided, what we would call today a Chico drum, standard and Goma style, that someone was carrying along the beach, and I was just a little boy, and the mystery of the shark's tail sticking out of that drum. I followed them, college kids, to a beach party, and they played the drum, and then they sat down, they got drunk, they partied, and then I got to play the drum. That was my first real experience with my hands on a drum as a young child. But I was drumming since my mother's third trimester. She was very glad to get me out. And my first rhythm teacher was a mockingbird in a willow tree, where I sat down and had my lunch in my school lunch. My first real drumming instrument was a sheet metal furnace in the basement of our house that had so many sounds that made the room rumble, the cement basement rumble. And my first musical instrument was the stairs down to that basement, because I could take hammers, turn them upside down, use the handles as beaters, and the high notes were the notes lowest to the floor, and the low notes were the notes highest to the kitchen where the steps led. So I was already a rhythmist and a percussionist long before I actually saw or touched the drum. But of course, the minute I touched that little Chico drum, that was, my life was set. I was, already heading in that direction. Then I had no choice.
What a great beginning, turning your house into an instrument that you explore. It's a great beginning.
We all do it. I'm sure that you have the same stories.
Sure.
In regards to your students and my students interacting, we walk the same path. It's parallel. And we're using, that form of rhythm. It's not about the drum. Okay, that's rhythm as a way to bring people together, as a way to create opportunities for different kinds of mental and physical and emotional healing. So it was no surprise that Reinhard Flatischler is a part of my life. It went long before I met you, and actually long before I read your first book.
Okay, now here you are having this first experience with your drum, and I'm very curious. When did you start your first drum circle? The idea, people coming together, and you are leading them. Tell me about that.
Summer of Love, San Francisco. I was in the military, and I had my weekends off, and I could go up to San Francisco and play with the hippie thunder drummers on a place they call Hippie Hill at the end of the Panhandle near Haight-Ashbury area. But I was actually in town studying with the street drummers, the conga players, and they were teaching me culturally specific Afro-Cuban rhythms and things like that, and telling me to stay away from the hippie thunder drummers. And I was already a hippie thunder drummer just by the nature of free-form rhythm, right? And so I would go to these free-form drum circles after I would do my culturally specific drum lessons downtown, and it was wonderful and horrible, because there was this freedom that you just didn't have when you're studying culturally specific drumming. You have to play a part, you sit on that part, all the parts fit together, the parts are old, passed down from generation to generation, and have purpose and meaning and dances that go with them and activities. In Africa, you don't sing unless you dance, and you don't dance unless you sing, and you don't dance and sing unless you drum. And every rhythm had a focus and a purpose. Rhythm for flirting, a rhythm for marriage, rhythm for having babies, in that order, and so on and so forth. Where the hippie thunder drummers, and we wore that label proudly, thunder drummers, even though it was a negative comment as to the kind of music that came out of the carnage that we created, had the freedom of expression. And I was about to go overseas. The last few drumming sessions, I loved the culturally specific drumming, because it encompassed all the musicality of what it's about, how to listen, and knowing that there's space between the notes that are as important as the notes themselves, knowing that these parts fit into this other part, and then they create a melody line that exists only when the parts are perfectly in alignment, and paying respect to the elders and the ancient traditions of the culture of Africa, as well as all over the world, as you know. But then I would just, I would go to the hippie hill and just blow it out, just have some fun, make mistakes, stop drumming for a bit and listen, and then jump back in. And it was wonderful in that respect, the freedom of expression, but horrible in that not everybody understood the sensibility of musicality and listening to each other and creating a musical song. So the song would come like an octopus leaning down and playing all of us at once. And it sounded just like any culturally specific rhythm, where all the parts fit and locked in together. And all of a sudden we're in that blissful state. And some crazy guy who just got excited starts jamming on top of it and knocks rhythmically everyone, and so we have these, what we call crash, burn, and die moments. And sometimes it's the perfect time because everyone's tired, we're ready to quit, and that's one of the reasons why the crash, burn, and die happens. And at other times it's not the right time, and everyone is really connected. It only takes 3 or 4 people in this kind of delicate environment to mess it up simply by not listening or getting their egos on their drum, and so on and so forth. And so I, at the age of 18, frustrated because we were at this magical musical place, one or two guys were not listening to where we were going or what we were doing, and they were causing the rhythm to get in trouble.
Okay.
And I walked in the middle of the circle, a young, angry young man who wanted it to be beautiful and perfect, and I slammed my fist down in the into my palm, going, "This is the pulse. Listen to the pulse. God damn it." And I did that until everybody got back together again. I sat down and I, quote, saved the magic of the rhythm for a moment. And when it finally all fizzled out, like it normally does in a hippie thunder drummer circle, a guy leaned over next to me and went, "Hey, man, what you did, that was cool. Next time, use a cowbell." And that was the first time I ever got in the middle of a circle, and I couldn't stay out of it. It took it's a wonderful lesson to be an elder in a community that you've helped pioneer and build, but brought together people who are smarter and wiser than you and educate you about what you're doing to help refine your mission and your direction. Because at the beginning, it was all about me. And now it's not all about me, even though that paradox still exists every time anyone steps in the middle of the circle. It's all about them, but no, it's all about the circle.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you one thing. When the hippie drum circles happened, there was no one to lead, right? It just appeared.
No. The rules was there are no rules. Mm-hmm. We don't need no stinking badges. I mean, if I walked into a hippie thunder drummer circle today, which I do on a regular basis, because I love that freeform foundational experimentation that just never stops evolving. I cannot wear my little beanie hat and my vest, okay? Otherwise, they will make the sign of the cross and chase me out of the circle with pitchforks. I understand the rules and regulations in regards to all of the different kinds of drum circles that exist today. So I would take my hat off and my vest and just go there as an old fat man with a big drum. Listen, the hippie thunder drummers saw the culturally specific drummers like a wild horse sees a corral. Don't fence me in, right? And the culturally specific traditionalists who are studying respectfully the rhythms of the ancients and their purpose and their culture, because it's not about the rhythm. It's the rhythm just sucks you into the culture. They see the hippie thunder drummers as disrespectful to the ancients and ignorant, and which we are on some level. And so on and so forth. And so it's really two sides of the same coin. Okay. And I've straddled those two sides all of my life in relationship to facilitating family-friendly community drum circles using in the moment music. Definition for hippie thunder drumming. Okay. As the format for connecting people together in the magic of rhythm. I'm using the principles of the musicality that was taught to me by the master drummers that I've worked with all of my life, and applying those principles and educating the group that I'm with towards musicality. So by the end of a community drum circle with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, kids running around all over the place, the musicality, the listening, the level of connection is based not on their rhythmical expertise, but on how they listen to, collaborate, and cooperate with each other. And they don't need me anymore. I have to go, GOOW, get out of their way to enable them to make that connection.
Right, but before you came to all these revelations, of course, there was this one aha moment you shared with us, You just wanted the people to understand the basic parts. And
right.
Then, okay, from here, maybe this is your first moment where the idea comes, someone could lead without leading. And now, how do you get from there to these massive circles that we have seen? Maybe I played just a little bit that people imagine how many people have there been this NAM circle, like several hundred people, right?
The largest group that we had was 1,200 people. The average NAM drum circle is about 600 to 800.
Yeah, imagine. And those are people who are not all drummers, right?
I cheat. Most of them are not all drummers.
Yeah.
I've been doing the annual NAM show. It's the NAM is the National Association of Music Merchants in Los Angeles for more years than I want to tell you. And when I first went there, I couldn't get anybody to come to the circles. Okay, so we did the circles outside deliberately and caught them when they walked out of the show itself, because the people were kicking them out. It was time to shut down the show for that evening, and they would come and run into this drum circle, go, what's going on, right? What band is this? And I also cheated, which I always did, was invite the local drum circle community to come and help me set up all those drums, and to be the core of the circle in the center. The first couple of rows are really volunteer veteran drum circle enthusiasts, not necessarily musicians, right? And then they would come on out. Nowadays, I'm walking down the booths and the aisleways of the non-merchant show, and they're going, when's the drum circle? Is it Saturday at 5 o'clock like usual, right? And now I've ended up converting the NOM population into drum circle enthusiasts.
Let's hear how that sounds. Imagine several hundred people.
All right. At that moment, I stepped out of the circle. Okay. I was marking the pulse, locking the group together, and boom. Once it was locked, I can leave. And what you hear after the hep, hep, hep is them playing without me. And the music was wonderful because you captured probably the end of that particular NOM circle.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I really share with you. This is the beauty of stimulating it and then getting out of the way. Because, you know, if you keep your hands on it, it's never going to groove. So stimulate and then let it go. Beside of these drum circles, you also have a long-standing relationship with James Athur. And
my heart warms with that name.
Yeah. How did you meet him?
Except for, hey, welcome to COVID year, I'm not traveling. And for the last 30 years, I commute to work, Asia in the springtime and Europe in the fall. And so every single year, I end up spending 1 to 2 weeks with James Athur in the studio. He called me up. I was a young man. I was frustrated about all of my contemporary percussionists wanting to make their own album. And in relationship to that, they would lay down some grooves and then kind of, pardon the expression, masturbate on top of it. It's like, blah, 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 blah. Let me show you how good I am. Blah, 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 blah. There was no music. And I'm going, wait a minute. I want emotional context and musicality inside the rhythm. The rhythm is only what it is, but without layering in the context. And James Athur, I had every one of his albums up to that point, and of course every single album after I met him. But since half of them, him and I made together, he was a guy who I'd never met, who I couldn't figure out if he was like you, a drumming musician or a musical drummer, because you fit in that category quite well. And then he calls me up and he says, hello, Athur. Is this Athur? He's the only person that can pronounce my name correctly, because he uses Upper English. Even I can't pronounce my name correctly. And I go, yes, who's this? And he says, perhaps you've heard of me. My name's James Athur. I go, I heard of you. I've got all your albums, And he greets, he wants to greet me and host me because I'm coming into London, which I do every single year to do a couple of shows, plus do a training. And he wanted to host me. And I get in the car and he goes, "Where would you like to go? Piccadilly Circus? With all the buskers and the music." "Oh, been there. I go there every year. It's okay." "Yeah." "Oh, how about the Tower of London? Off with their heads and all that." And I go, No, James. No. I went to the Tower of London 3 times. That's good enough for me. I hear they've opened up the dungeon. It's brand new. Yeah, they opened it up last year. I already went to it. He said, "Well," he's getting frustrated. "Well, where do you want to go?" And I went, "Your studio." And it was love at first beat. And so without intention, we just started doing rhythmical alchemy with no intention to make any albums or something like that. And after 3 or 4 years of doing this, one of his album companies called him up and said, "Look, we've got a page open in the catalog, and we'd like to put an album of yours in that new page." And he goes, "Well, we have a contract, and I give you an album every year, and you've got your album." And they went, "Well, this is just an opportunity. Well, if you want to take it." And then he goes around and he grabs a bunch of our stuff. Okay. And that was our first album. And it was amazing. How first of all, our collaboration is amazing. I've got stuff to deliver and he's got stuff to deliver, and we mix it up and we just let it go. Sometimes we're talking a scenario rather than the musicality of it. "Oh, it's James Bond and he's on a train. Okay. And now he's going through a tunnel and now he's being attacked." And so it was really wonderful. So when we got together the next year, we were all excited because we got an album out and it sold really well. And then we tried to make an album and it was horrible because we were trying to make an album, and we were thinking like musicians and coming up with a product. And no. We gave up. We wasted a whole year. Okay. Our 1 to 2 weeks of alchemy together, trying to make something rather than being together and sharing our rhythmical alchemy. And so that's what we've done for 15, 20 years.
Now, to put some flesh on the bone here, that people got to hear what's this collaboration like. I had some recordings from you and him.
This is a concept called layering in. So you're layering in different parts one at a time, so the person listening to it can play along with it.
Okay. It's like music -1.
Yeah. There we go.
Is the drums mainly you and he is programming the...
This particular one is from an album called let's see, it's the play along album. Okay.
Yes.
And it was done acoustically and deliberately in this fashion because it was the different universal grooves that a drum circle facilitator could use in their drum circle without necessarily forcing the group to play something culturally specific and in doing so disrespecting the culture. Okay. Right? And so there are universal, that was the heartbeat rhythm piece, and the universal grooves things was an acoustic album. All the drums were Remo.
Ah,
Uh,
wow.
uh, he's bought every single drum Remo makes, so I didn't have to drag anything around. And then with a little bit of added musicality in on a couple of the pieces, but mostly just to have someone be able to listen to parts of different music being built on top of it, choose a part and play along with it to explore that rhythm. We did a write-up in the back of my workbook for my 3-day drum circle facilitator trainings. And the write-up was each one of those universal grooves. I described where the different kinds of cultures came from, that these grooves you could find everywhere in the world, right? They're
Mhm.
universal.
Yeah, yeah.
And how they would, you could apply them, and hints about utilizing them inside of a drum circle without without turning it into a drum class.
Let me play one thing that really got my attention. It's a very deep groove that you created here.
Let's hear. This is our collaboration. That's a good representation of the James Asher Arthur Hall collaboration, and I understand why you like it, because there's a little bit of mega drum sensibility in there.
Do you use that in drum circles, or if you do drum circle, it's just the drums?
As a drum circle facilitator, you take wherever they give you.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody comes in with a saxophone or a electrified bass or other kinds of instrumentation. You see it as a gift and you utilize it. Now, with a musician, you also sometimes go over to that musician and say, and talk to their ego a little bit and say, this is, without saying this, you're saying it without saying it, saying this is not a foundation for you to solo on for the next hour and a half, right? Share your spirit, put the music in, back out a little bit, make space, put your music back in, that kind of stuff. You have to do that sometimes with hotshot solo drummers who want to show you how good they are, and they're so busy showing you that they're getting in the way of the music. How to be able to encourage them and utilize their expertise, stroke their ego every once in a while, their musical ego, and at the same time, get them to be as strongly supportive of the groove as they are wanting to get on top of the groove and show you how good they are.
What I'm really interested is, this is an amazing concept. You say, like, whatever someone brings or what the situation is, you work with it. So how are you teaching people who learn from you to make drum circles? How do you teach them to go with any situation and deal with any situation? That's a very interesting question for me.
The beginners come into our training, and they most of them now are internet trained. So they see these guys doing, twiddling their fingers and making stop cuts and things like that. And that's what the video shows. The video doesn't show the real work that goes on behind the scenes. It's just the person getting up in the middle of the circle, jumping up and down. And some people think that's what you do, and then you never leave the circle. Okay. So you give them that basic technology of making stop cuts and understanding that. Then you talk about the intention of what you're doing. And that breaks it down into 4 sections. Number 1, dictator. You're dictating to them the body language that you're going to use to guide them to their musicality later. So at first, you're really the dictator. Then secondly, now all of a sudden, you can use your body language to guide them to listening to the musical principles. So you're directing them by the activities that you're doing them to listen to each other. For instance, you've taught them how to continue to play and how to stop and you scoped out and showcase all the low drummers, the big bass drums, right? And then stop everybody else at once. And now all the bass drummers are drumming. Now, for some people who are sitting in that circle, they didn't hear the bass drummers. They were so busy with all the wonderful noise and confusion and just excitement, and all of a sudden they hear the foundation of the music. And then you find different ways to layer in different players, or you can call the whole group back in together. But the more you allow them to come in on their own, like at your leisure, join this song, you are being a sneaky bastard. And slowly but surely, you move them into the principles of understanding that you're making space between the notes for other people's creativity by the notes that you're making, those kinds of things. Now, that was step 2, that's director. Now you've directed them towards musicality. Once the musicality happens, okay, now you start working with that music, and you can start really facilitating their music. And so the first thing you do in a drum circle is you go in for short little moments when the rhythm is in trouble, the hippie thunder drummer crash, burn, and die stuff. And then maybe in the beginning, you actually let it almost die. So they're looking around, looking, where's our savior? You come in, here he comes to save the day. And you should wear a cape. Then you come in and you fix whatever's fixed, and then you go out. And you're really telling them, I'm here to help you when you're in trouble. Okay, so they know that you're not just getting in the middle of the circle, standing there and creating a musical piece where you're the conductor and they're just the players, right? It's really up to them. So by the time they get to musicality, the time that you actually need to get into the circle to facilitate is less and less and less. And the music is, the level of musicality amongst the players are higher and higher and higher, regardless as if it's mom and dad or kids. And then finally, it gets to the point where if you're doing it right, they don't need you. You're fired. Your job description of a drum circle facilitator is to fire yourself because they don't need you anymore. And that's when you become the orchestrator. And now they trust you as much as you need to trust them. And now you take your musical sensibility, and this is where you, Reinhard Flatischler, would be really good at this, is to come in, listen to what they're offering, and take them on a musical journey they can't go on them on their own. Okay? That's the end of a 1 hour drum circle. It's where you actually get to play with and bend the rules that you've already established as a drum circle facilitator. By that time, you've got an orchestra. That doesn't mean that they can, after their drum circle, that they can go out and audition for a gig in a band, but they've learned the principles of listening to each other and sharing the rhythmical spirit. And the most important thing is the connection that you're helping them make is what the music is based on. It's not based on their musical expertise. So we say that you have playing abilities and you have playing abilities. And one of them is how, your chops. Where can you go? Flan, tap, dip, paradiddles, whatever you got, right? But a grandma who's got a mallet and one big drum can find the beat, and she's just as important as the player. And so her ability to listen and put that one single note in the right spot is as important, if not more important, than the hotshot drummer that can play 100 drum beats around her. And so some of these aspects that you just mentioned, like following the people who are following you, okay? These are principles that we impart in our drum circle facilitator trainings. Simple little things like that help you understand the magic of the collaborative experience of spirit coming together, connected to hands, connected to drums and percussion instruments.
You really laid out the whole process that the people go through very clearly. Now my question comes also for our listeners who have not made this experience yet. are there some basic rhythm archetypes or some basic rhythm that you start with? How do you start the drum circle so people come together?
The idea is, instead of setting up a rhythm, okay, cheat. Okay, cheating is really good for a facilitator. For instance, you have shills. You understand shills? Okay.
Shills? No, what is
Yeah,
shills?
shills. It's they have it all over the world. They have different names for it. A shill is a person that, like, if you're a comedian and you're going to do a show, you go out and you pay a couple of people to laugh at your jokes at the right
Oh,
time, and that
yeah,
seeds the
okay.
rest of the
Yeah.
people, right? A shill.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. You get some of your supporters, your low drummers, and sometimes I'll actually keep the doors closed until a real official time. Germans like that, instead of just like opening up the doors and let them coming in. And then I'll have the bottom players play just a rhythm with a bass note orientation, doom da 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 doom doom da da. And as they come in, they start locking into that, and you just let it happen rather than having them come. Like in China, my first drum circle, they all came in, sat down, didn't touch a drum, and I'm going, "What's wrong?" You know, they're, "Oh, we're waiting for you to tell us to start." I said, "Well, start." And I didn't go 1, 2, let's all play, or do a rhythm or anything. And they all just started. And it was cacophony for about 3 minutes until finally a beat formed, right? And the beat formed, and all of a sudden now there was something I could work with, right?
Yeah, I see
Both
much more.
orientation.
I see much
So
more in this.
cheating is you know how it all's supposed to work, but you don't want to say, I am the leader and you are the follower. And one of the principles working with the people who work with you is, follow the people who are following you.
What you described from China is even much deeper for me, because if you go what you call cacophony, is actually like this flexible chaos, and then organization starts to happen. They come together. That's a very interesting phenomenon we both share. Like TaKeTiNa base is so much based on going in chaos and going back to the rhythm, and going in chaos and going back to rhythm. Great. So let's hear a little bit more of your music. I have here. That is very nice.
James, right?
With a kangogi, I can hear here. African bell.
Way. Yeah.
Yeah, in Ghana, it's called kangogi.
Any way you say it, everyone's going to say it's wrong and then give you 5 different ways of saying it.
Yes.
This is your Nigerian high life to the one.
Yes.
To the one.
I played a long time with the Adi family, like Athur Adi and so. So Ghana is the next country over,
Yep.
And by the way, I don't know if you know that I met Olatunji way before in India when we were invited by a festival. And I always met him again till he was in Boston in the hospital where he died. And so he was also, for you, a very important person, wasn't it?
20 years.
And that brings us to the Remo family. All those people then reconnected around Remo, from Babatonde to you, to me, to Glenn Velez, and that's also where similar projects like Planet Drums and Mega Drums, they are all circling around.
Remo, I called him Dad. He didn't like it, but he lived with it. Okay, and he was the ultimate dot connector, and it was his company, and at the same time, it was his toy. And he loved to go into Area 51 and create things no one had ever seen or heard before. That was what we called his research and development department. He's always going, well, what do you think of this? And then, of course, as a drum maker, I go, well, I think that your bearing edge needs to be a little bit fatter here, and if you close the neck here, the girth ring can have better grabbing and all. And next time I came down to work on my design for my drums, I designed at least 9 drums for Remo. He showed me this thing again, and it had been done. What I said he might do, it had been done. He goes, okay, what's next? But he was a definite dot connector. He saw this long before this came into being. And he put millions, literally millions of dollars of his own money, not from Remo, but from his money that he made from Remo, okay, back into the this community in so many different ways. The research and development that he did with Dr. Barry Bittman and Health Rhythms, all the different research, validated research studies that he had paid for in relationship to reducing stress, boosting our immune system, stimulate creative expression, inducing deep work, relaxation, all those different aspects that we all talk about. But he went and paid for studies that proved these things exist and work. You know, there's science behind the activities that we talk when we use the word healing. But in relationship to what you're talking about, he brought us all together. He was the dot connector by having Glenn Velez and me and lots of other people design their own drums and become endorsers of products that they designed, that they put themselves into, that they put into all different kinds of communities, made Remo the drum company for lots of people who couldn't find the drums that they needed that served their particular constituency. So that was he was a great businessman, but at the same time, he was a great humanitarian because he really believed this stuff. He sent me to so many health and healing conferences. And one of the reasons why I am worldwide is because he paid for my travel. And when I finally got to the point where I could train some trainers, thank you very much, Reinhard, for your modeling of that. He helped pay for getting them all to Scotland from all over the world, 16 of the international trainers, so that they could do the program.
I don't know anyone else who have listened so carefully to people. Like I've seen him sitting in a workshop a whole day, completely attentive. And you know, these many hours we spent in Paso Roble on his vineyard and contemplated.
I love that little ranch.
And they bought, for me, they did this beautiful TaKeTiNa mother drum. That sounds like a pseudo of unbelievable dimensions. Everyone plays it now. So it's the same story, you know.
Right.
Now, at this point, my dear, where are you going from here? What's your dream? What's your vision from here on?
Oh, my God. You know, we finished the America's Training the Trainers program in February of this year, just before COVID shut down. So I now have about 32 trainers, and that's all I need, except for a few in China. That's it. When the COVID breaks, okay, obviously what everybody wants to do is reconnect. And I'm sure that people like you and I are going to benefit from that drastic need to get away from Zoom and to actually hug people and actually hear a rhythm that's in the same room as you, rather than hearing it through a speaker on your computer. And so that's the legacy. I could die right now and it doesn't matter. I'm a happy boy. Everything's going to be taken care of. This mission is going to continue. And we've got a really good community. You're looking at it right here.
Yeah.
At the end of every training, what I did was I collected a piece of string from each student.
Nice.
This is a ball of string.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Mission accomplished, but I love to continue. We have a very similar path. And I actually hope that you see here my Vienna
beautiful studio.
I really hope sometimes you will come to Vienna and be really my guest here, and we drum together.
That would be so much fun. Yeah, we both have gone through the process of inventing something and then turning it into a worldwide movement, and then going through what I call founder's disease, when you can finally be secure enough in what it is to let it go, let it expand.
That speaks very high about you, that you let it also, that freedom to evolve. Because if we keep on too much regulations and everything, it dies down when we go, and we want everything to go on. So
absolutely.
Yes, thank you for sharing all the wisdom and this beautiful project you have. Very adorable. So maybe we just finish a little bit with people we all know. This is Athur Morera, Saki Hussein, Glenn Bless, Blaine.
The gods of rhythm, and Mickey's buddies.
Yeah. This is Mega Drums in 2000.
And Reinhard Flatischler's buddies.
Yes. So let me thank you again very, very much that you came on my podcast. You shared all your intelligence and your beauty. How can people find you on the net?
Drumcircle.com. You can go to my website. There's a video, 1 hour video on what we've actually talked about that'll give you a good sensibility of, you can actually, after the video, you can go out and start making trouble for yourself and learn how to be a drum circle facilitator. Reinhard, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's so good to see you. Nice to chat with you. This could be a 5-hour conversation. We just touched the tips of the icebergs, my friend. God bless you for your work that you've been doing, your inspiration, and the good person that you are.
Thank you so much. Really check out Athur Halls and all his work around the globe, and become part of his community as well. If you like the podcast, go to powerofrhythm.com/podcast, and you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Lots of more episodes coming on all around this one thing that connects us all, which is rhythm.
Rhythm. Share your spirit.
Thank you so much, Mattia.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And to your listeners, have a great day. Be happy. Enjoy life. Drum.